Of myself. My name is Lizzie Davis, and I am a Modern Work sales specialist here at Microsoft. Specifically, I work with customers who are newer to their Microsoft 365 journey. So that might be because you're journeying into Microsoft 365 from on-prem, from other third-party solutions. Whatever it might be, I am here to partner with you on that journey and to help demystify all that is Microsoft 365. I also have a counterpart on the call with me today. Oscar, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, that would be great.
Of course. Hey there. I'm Oscar Rango. I am a digital technical specialist in the modern work, and I also cover the Microsoft 365, including security and compliance and identity. My job here at Microsoft is to bring technical expertise that can turn into a demo or a workshop so that our customers can make an informed decision. Today, we're here to share some valuable information about Microsoft Intune and the modern device management journey. So feel free to post your questions in the chat, and our team will make sure to get those answers. Back to you, Lizzie.
Wonderful. Thank you, Oscar. So as Oscar said, today really our goal is to make this as interactive as possible. Feel free to throw questions in the chat and our team will answer, and we'll also do a little bit of a Q&A at the end as well. So all in all, maybe you've come here today for a wide variety of reasons, right? You might have had a bad experience with Microsoft's Configuration Manager or Intune in the past, but you've heard about the new collaborations that we've been doing for on-prem and cloud environments, and you're here to give us a second chance. You might be considering taking that next step in your Microsoft 365 journey, right? And a huge part in that is being able to vet out that device management portion so that we can really enable you all to do more with less with your Microsoft 365 investment. Or you could be taking strides towards fortifying your company's zero trust posture and looking to lock down those devices and make sure you have insight into what those devices are accessing and the compliance level on those devices. All in all, the goal of today's session is to show everyone on this call how Intune really is a solution that's now created to meet your company where they are at in their device landscape and their device sprawl, right? Whether that is looking to manage a frontline ruggedized device, a corporate-owned PC, or even your end user's own mobile device. The goal is that we can show you that Intune can meet you and create that single pane of glass for management of all of the devices that might be walking their way into your company's door. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into an agenda of what we're specifically going to cover today, and we will kick things off. So starting off today, we really have four main topics that we want to address, right? That first being Tenant Attach and Co-Management, really showing your company how we are able to now bridge the on-premise environment to the cloud. Next up being device lifecycle management with Windows Autopilot. This is a crucial step in the onboarding and imaging of your devices and just looking at the overall lifecycle management of your company's devices. We're going to be looking at application management and emphasizing the importance there is to having a pulse on the applications being used on your corporate-owned devices, but also those applications being accessed from personal devices as well. And lastly, we're going to be talking about Windows patch management. And as we know, this can be a serious pain point for some of our customers in the past. So we're hoping to simplify that approach for you all today and show you how simplified it is today through cloud delivery. However, that being said, I really want to kick us off by reorienting ourselves into the entire landscape of the zero trust journey, right? Don't worry, y'all. I promise I'm not turning this into another one of those zero trust webinars and discussions. But instead, I want to just make sure that we've put ourselves into the correct timeline of where Intune and device management falls into our greater zero trust principles. So let's say that as an IT organization, you've successfully set up conditional access and two-factor authentication. And so when a user, is now logging in, you know that you're fully verifying that identity, right? But is it fair to say that as an organization, even once we've fully verified that identity, we don't want to just, unlock this massive attack surface and say that, hey, any device that you want to log into, as long as we know who you are, you can log in. No matter what, if that device is jailbroken or it's not compliant or it's on a super old version of, let's say, iOS, right? You're going to be able to say that with Zero Trust, you want to ensure that that device is compliant and that it aligns to your company's policies, right? You get the point. The idea is that with a Zero Trust mindset, we're saying that every access point and the vehicle being used to access your data should be verified and monitored by the organization. So if we understand that securing devices is a fundamental part of that Zero Trust journey, then let's pivot to ask ourselves, what type of questions might we need to be asking ourselves as an organization to better understand our devices and the ecosystem that we have them in as it relates to Zero Trust principles. So that really dives me into my next slide here, where we're going to look at, a couple different questions that we've posed today for you as an IT organization to be reflecting on when it comes to, questions you should be asking yourself and reflecting on your current state and your device posture. But there's two that I specifically want to narrow in on today, right? So when we look at question 3, when should I require a device to be fully MDM managed? And how should I protect data on a device if it's unmanaged? Well, I really wanted to narrow in on this one today because the truth is there are plenty of cases where full management of a device is not necessarily the best use case, right? I'm thankful that as an employee here at Microsoft, they don't ship me out my own iOS device just for work that I have to keep track of all the time to be able to manage that hybrid work approach of, accessing Teams and other important things like my Outlook when I'm on the go. I don't want to have to carry a whole nother device around with me. So instead, what I'm able to do and what Microsoft's able to do using Intune is set up a work profile on my device so that it's like my device is really 2 phones in one, right? It's still Lizzie Davis's personal device with all of her personal photos and emails, and I don't worry about Microsoft having a touch point on any of those aspects of my life. But then it's also my work device. It's where I can access and communicate via Teams on the go if I'm hopping onto a flight at the end of the workday. Things like that that I'm able to really benefit from because I have it all right there on one device. But an important thing to recognize here is that we do want to make sure we're still protecting the data that I'm accessing on my personal device, right? I'm notorious for not updating my phone. That's just the truth. But Microsoft then doesn't want to be able to let me just access any old applications and data if I'm not keeping my phone secure and so forth. Another question here I'd want to narrow in on is question 5. My employee has reported a device as lost or stolen, right? This really leans itself well to the example I've just given you. Let's say I reach out to my IT help desk team and I say, hey, I've lost my phone. It's been a couple of days now, and I know, I had some sensitive data saved on that device, right? Well, now what Microsoft's able to do is say, okay, we're going to go in and we are going to wipe Lizzie Davis's phone using Windows Autopilot Reset to ensure that that device is, no longer having access to corporate secure, data. But maybe I tracked down my phone after a couple of days. They haven't then wiped everything on my phone. I still have all my personal communications and pictures and things like that, but they were able to wipe the entire work profile, and IT was able to go to bed safely that night and sleep soundly knowing that no data was on the line, right? So really, it's through reflecting on questions like this that we get to see what Intune really can do for us and for our organization. And the truth is that there are a lot of different use cases that Intune is applicable for, right? So if we hop over to my next slide, we can kind of see what some of those specific use cases are. But I really want to, more importantly, narrow in on the big picture here. And it's the idea that using Intune, we can enhance security for devices and applications, but we're also allowing our organization to still be productive because they're able to access corporate data, but we keep it protected, right? And we accomplish all of this using Microsoft Intune. But also remember, y'all, the benefit is that it's very highly integrated into Microsoft 365 workloads, such as Office and Windows and Azure Active Directory. So everything really does, play well together. Now from here, we're going to jump into some of the key features of Intune that we want to highlight with you all today. And that starts with Tenant Attach and Co-Management. So the days of having to pick, your on-premise environment versus cloud management are over. I'm happy to say that to you all. We're here to show you that how using Intune, we're able to meet your organization exactly where it's at, whether they want to be completely cloud first or predominantly still on-prem. So where that starts is by recapping what our old management story is here at Microsoft, right? The truth is that there's always been that tension between on-premise and cloud-based management. Right here to start, we have the configuration manager, an on-premise infrastructure that is still used by almost every organization in the world today to manage over 150 million Windows devices. On the other end, we have Microsoft Intune, and that is the cloud-based management service that we use to not only manage Windows, but mobile devices and all your other traditional endpoints you might think of. But today's management challenge is that we need to find a world where we can realistically use both styles in unison. And that's where Microsoft Intune comes into play, right? Because we are now bringing both approaches together, including Configuration Manager and Microsoft Intune, under a unified endpoint management and security platform. So let's reframe what we all know as modern management. It's not necessarily a move from on-premise to cloud infrastructure in just one giant leap, but instead it's the way that an organization takes advantage of the intelligent cloud services available to them to transform IT delivery and their security posture without waiting for all the stars to align. So where that really starts is with Tenant Attach, right? Tenant Attach is a new capability within Intune that allows you to get cloud value without having to make any changes to your physical clients. It's one of the least disruptive and fastest ways that you can cloud attach an on-premise configuration manager infrastructure and then now turn it into an intelligent edge, right? So with Tenant Attach, you're still going to have your domain joined PCs continue to be fully managed on-prem by the configuration manager infrastructure. However, the intelligent edge can now gather and feed data to Endpoint Manager so that you can get real-time insights and experiences, creating, the ability for highly responsive remote actions and a complete device inventory being managed from your device cloud-based console. For many organizations, this could be the end game, right? This might be y'all's best route to modern management, and it's what works for you. However, other organizations may choose to take the next step when they are ready. And what that is co-management. Co-management really goes beyond that tenant to cloud attach. It's more of a unique technology that leverages Microsoft Intune to be able to manage your Windows 10 and 11 clients from both Configuration Manager, but also Intune at the same time. So it creates really this single platform, and the two services ensure that there's good synergy between the two and that you're not having any conflict when you're trying to apply policies to the same device. So, the benefit here is that we really get to see that you can have full control over what workloads you're managing and from which service you want to manage them from. Using the cloud-based tool, you can get a little bit more in the weeds and perform more complex tasks, but at the end of the day, just benefit from all that is modern management without having to completely make a move to the cloud. So as organizations get more comfortable with cloud services, they can move more workloads to the cloud and retain the on-premise infrastructure for the most complex apps and customizations. It's this end state that provides the maximum cloud value, but you're getting it all from a single place to manage your Windows and mobile devices, your endpoint security, and even that end user experience, right? So many organizations may choose to start directly with Microsoft Intune and not go via this co-management storyline. But the opposite scenario is true as well. You might be a traditional Microsoft customer, right, who has really started and built out this large configuration manager ecosystem. And now through Microsoft Intune, we're offering that way to now consolidate all of your device management, including those Windows and mobile devices, and that, that wide sprawl under one umbrella. That being said, there is a lot of different journeys that our end users typically take to get to this place, right? And that's where we really touch on this idea that we might be needing to move from that more traditional route of on-prem management that I've been talking about a lot today to more of that modern route. And there's a lot of different journeys that customers take to do that I'm going to show you on this next slide. So some of our organizations and customers here today might be cloud first, right? And that means that they've always been in the cloud. And so, Intune and its cloud capabilities is what they've always known. In some cases, you have that big switch transition where you have a lot of workloads that you want to modernize and you want to do it all at the same time. But we all know that can be a headache and a tiresome process. And so that's really where the new Intune today and its connections with Tenant Attach and Co-Management create a simpler process for you. And it can be a slower transition overall. And also, the truth is, we can just meet you right in the middle as well. And you never have to fully migrate all workloads over to the cloud as well. So I want to dig into the licensing here for a second. More importantly, the features that align to the difference between being managed just on-prem to when you do unlock that capability of cloud attach and cloud-only management, right? So you can see that there really is a varying level of benefits for being an all on-prem environment versus unlocking that potential with the cloud attach. You see, now using the cloud attach or a cloud only management style, you've allowed yourself to unlock that single pane of glass for management. So you don't have to have a whole separate device management tool to manage, those iOS devices, those Android devices. You can today create a BYOD policy with your end users simply using the Microsoft tooling that you're already comfortable with, and then also leveraging the data from the entire Microsoft graph if your users are also users of Office 365 and other solutions like that. So we've really created that device agnostic management portal for you, where you're able to leverage things like Autopilot, which is what we're going to jump into next here. So Windows Autopilot, really at the end of the day, is just our way of finally, at last, simplifying the Windows device lifecycle management for yourself, but also for your end users. When we look at Windows Autopilot, what it really is a comprehensive approach to your entire device lifecycle management. And that starts with the idea of when you are enrolling and provisioning those devices, right? Let's say that your end user gets shipped a new device directly to their front door. That was my onboarding experience, right? And with zero-touch IT endpoint provisioning, utilizing Autopilot, I was able to log on to that device right there. And in front of my eyes, I watched that device turn in from a Windows Pro PC to a Windows Enterprise device, right? It was automatically imaged once it verified who Lizzie Davis was and authenticated with Azure AD that I, had this specific set of custom applications that needed to be pre-imaged on my device and so forth. And it really created a very seamless process for IT because they never had to touch that device, but also for myself because I didn't have to spend my first day, with IT setting up my whole device and making sure it had all the correct applications and so forth on there for me. It was a very seamless approach. But where we create that comprehensive storyline here is when we jump to manage and protect next, this is where Microsoft Intune really takes over, right? So that entire time the device is in the hands of the end user, you're using Intune to be able to manage that device and the applications on it and so forth. Lastly, we retire that device. The device's life cycle is over and it's time for it to be retired. It's done good service for us. Well, then at the end, you're able to use Autopilot Reset to completely wipe that device of all its corporate data, and it moves on, and you don't have to worry about data being left over on any of the devices. So at the end of the day, we've really created that entire device lifecycle management journey, as you can see, with Windows Autopilot and Intune. So now, as an IT org, we can reduce the time that we're having to spend deploying and imaging devices and retiring those devices. But we're also reducing just the overall infrastructure and hands on the keyboard action that we need to be setting up new users and so forth, while also making the end user experience very seamless and very easy. So Windows Autopilot is a collection of technologies used to set up and pre-configure all your devices, but then also manage them until the day that we are retiring them for good. Now I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to my colleague Oscar to touch on application management.
Thank you, Lacey. So in addition to managing devices, you can use Microsoft Intune to manage your applications on your company to use on their devices. This functionality is called mobile application management. Intune is designed to protect organization data at the application level, including customer application and store application. It also lets you publish, push, configure, secure, monitor, and update mobile applications for your end users. So what we hear from IT admins is that the application management can be challenging sometimes because there are all kinds of devices and applications out there. And we might have to manage applications on both company and people's personal devices. And we must ensure that the network and the data remain secure. So managing application is a big part of managing devices. But with Intune, you can set up applications to meet your company's standards so you can access company data. Now, as an IT admin, you can use Microsoft Intune to manage the applications that your team uses. So this is in addition to managing devices and keeping the data safe. One of our main job is to make sure that the applications they need to get their job done. Now, from the end user perspective, you don't want the company managing your personal phone, and companies are exploring alternative ways to avoid purchasing corporate phones for the employees because it's really expensive. So that's where MAM comes in. It can help you achieve both goals. Now, Intune application protection lets you control what happens to your documents and data after you access them. So you can use it with mobile devices that are enrolled or not even enrolled. Intune application protection can also work with other mobile device management solutions. And because we use your identity, you can use multiple identities with applications. And the app policies are smart enough to only apply to data that's related to corporate net accounts. Now, Intune mobile application management lets you control what can you do with your corporate data. You can restrict actions such as copy, cut, paste between Intune managed applications and applications that are not managed by Intune. You can also require the entire of a PIN or corporate credentials when a managed application is launched. This helps prevent accidental access to corporate data by unauthorized users. Now, securing corporate data on lost or stolen devices. So Intune not only allows IT admins and end users to fully wipe managed devices, but most importantly, it also allows you to perform a selective wipe. Not only removing company files from the device, such as VPN, Wi-Fi profiles, certificates management, email profiles, and company applications. So this is key, as one of the major pushbacks from the end users is their concern of having their personal information exposed, or even worse, getting wiped by the IT department. So now that's going to take us to the fourth point, which is going to be Windows Patch Management. And a lot of us are probably using Configuration Manager right now to deliver updates. So for anyone who is joining us today and wondering what's the right time or when is the right time to move to a cloud-based update management, let's dive into and talk about what the differences are. So if you're using Configuration Manager today, although there is granularity and control, it can be a lot to manage and keep track. as you update your Windows devices, and most likely you are running a lot of infrastructure to maintain service levels and uptime. While most devices today are connected to the internet, as people work more hybrid, they are connecting less frequently to the corporate network. So going to the cloud-based updates make a lot of sense now, especially if you need to deploy updates fast and safely. Our goal is to help you make an informed decision and see how managing your devices from the cloud will help you reduce infra costs and management. Leave the legwork to us. We'll take care of the service while you take care of what matters the most. Windows Update for Business now provides management policies for several types of updates to Windows 10 and 11 devices. So it uses cloud-based Windows Update service to deploy and schedule updates, and also provides policies to control the types of timing of updates, and it also enables the creation of servicing rings. And I saw that some people were asking on the chat about servicing rings. So those are groups of machines that where updates can be tested and approved. Now, as you probably already know, or if you're wondering what kind of updates are out there for me, so there are really two types of updates, right? It's feature updates that contain not only security and quality revisions, but also significant feature additions and changes, and are released as soon as they become available. Now, on the other hand, we have quality updates. Quality updates are traditional operative system updates, typically released on the second Tuesday of each month, though they can be released at any time. These include security, critical, and driver updates. Now, if you're wondering if you have the ability to defer or pause an update, you can do both, or you can either or. So a Windows Update for Business Administrator can defer the installation of both feature or quality updates from deploying to devices within a bounded range of time from when those updates are first made available on the Windows Update service. So you can use this referral um, update to allow time to validate deployments as they are pushed to the devices. Now, if you discover a problem while deploying a feature or quality update, the IT admin can pause the update for 35 days from a specified start date to prevent other devices from installing until the issue is mitigated. Now, wondering, about the managing the end user experience when receiving the Windows updates. So Windows Update for Business also provides control to help meet your organization security standards, as well as providing a great end user experience. But enough about the talk. Let's dive into the demo. All right, so I'm here on the Microsoft Endpoint Configuration Manager. So under a tenant administrator or administrator here, you're going to see cloud services. And we have the co-management option here. So let's go ahead and click on here. For your environment, if you are not co-managed already, you will not have this option, but instead you're going to get a wizard, which is going to walk you through the steps that we are about to share. So here, as you probably can see, the option is already grayed out for me, right? And why is because I have tenant attach already enabled in my tenant. But if you didn't, or if you don't, you have the option here to connect your environment. So what this is going to give it to you, it's going to give you visibility for your Intune environment to your on-prem environment. So you're going to see and create that awareness. So Intune is going to know that there's an environment on premises that now it's aware of, and you can start reporting to Microsoft Intune via this. So now, once you click in here, you're going to get a similar pop-up that I'm going to present here, and it's going to say, hey, this action will register an application in the Azure AD tenant to authorize the synchronization of data to Intune. Do you want to continue? And if you click yes, then that's it. You are going to start reporting, your devices, on-premise devices, to the cloud. Now, the next step on that wizard is going to configuring upload. So this is really what it's going to give the visibility to Microsoft Intune. So when you select this, you want to make sure this checkbox is enabled. So and the recommended way to do it here is by the system is to just synchronize all the devices, even though you are not going to be managing all of the devices from here. It's just for Intune to know, you have more devices and you are keeping those devices for compliance or regulatory reasons on premises. And then the next step on that journey will be starting to do, the enrollment type. Now, important thing to highlight in here is, as you probably know, in Configuration Manager, we have collections, right? Device collection. So as you probably can see, I already created a device collection called Co-Management Devices, and that's the one I'm piloting for co-management to Intune here. So you can probably see, and you get the option to browse for your device collections here. And so the co-management devices has already 13 devices that I am including as part of this effort. And we are going to dive into the Intune demo and into the admin center so you guys can get to see that real time. Now, there was a question on the chat like, hey, how do I know and how do I control how those updates get published, and you wanted to leverage those update rings and feature updates from Microsoft Intune. And this is where you get to play around with those, right? You get to say, hey, I want Configuration Manager to do those. I want to pilot Intune. I want to have Intune do those for me. So, and that really applies for every single slider that you see here, right? Compliance, device configuration, endpoint protection, client applications, and Office click to run applications. Now, you have also the staging option, right? And this is also to allow you and give you that flexibility when you are targeting different device collections. So, or if you happen to have more device collections, so you get to see and also to select which device collections are going to be part of this effort. And as you can see here, I have co-management devices for pretty much everything. Now, hopping to the access and compliance really quick, this is where you will see the device collections. And as you can see, I already created this. But the way you will do it, you create your device collection here, and that's how you can start adding devices under this. Now, let's go to the Microsoft Intune Admin Center. So I know Lizzie also talked about the device life cycle management with Microsoft Windows Autopilot. So let's dive into that really quick. So I'm here under devices, and we are going to go to first enroll devices. And under enroll devices, we're going to see Windows Autopilot deployment program. And we have three options here, right? One option will be to configure your deployment profiles, which is basically and essentially your baseline, how you want those devices to get enrolled. So let's go ahead and create a policy. We call it webinar. Now we have an option to convert all targeted devices to Autopilot. So when a device is not enrolled but already existed on your environment, if you enable this option, if those users go through the out-of-the-box experience, they should be able to onboard the devices with Windows Autopilot if you enable this option. We'll leave it as no right now. Now, we have different deployment modes. You get to choose, the self-deploying is preview already. What we usually do is we have the user driven, and that's what we see other customers and companies do. And also you get to see and to know, and also to select whether or not you want Azure AD joint devices or hybrid Azure AD joint devices. Now, for the hybrid Azure AD joint, you have to get a connector, and I'll walk you through that, where you get the connector from and the agent and everything. Also, you get options to show the license terms and things like that. And then you can also, hide some of the options to change the account. You get to see or pick if you want the user to join as administrator or standard user, and language and things like that, like keyboard. And then once you have your setup ready to go, here's where you target pretty much the groups that you want to be part of Windows Autopilot. And then once you target the groups, let's go with all users, just really quick for the sake of this demo. And this is the summary page where we are going to review all the settings. And if something in here doesn't make sense, or we, for some reason, we didn't see that option, we can always go to previous and keep editing this according to this. So you get the last chance before you create the policy. So that's pretty much on the enrollment. Now let's dive into the devices here. So this is a Windows Autopilot device. It has this naming convention because I created a policy for this to have a naming convention. So that's why you see this name. But this is just to show you what type of actions are here, right? Whether you want to autopilot reset or fresh start, or wipe the device, retard the device, delete the device, synchronize if there's any changes made. You can also collect diagnostics, or if you click on the ellipses, you can you get things like rotation of the big locker key, locating the device, and things like that. So this is pretty much in a nutshell how Windows Autopilot and how you can manage the device lifecycle. Now let's jump into the application management devices, right? So here under the homepage, we are going to go to the applications. Now, a lot of customers, they ask me how they can deploy Microsoft 365 applications from here, right? So let's dive into that really quick. So we are going to select Windows platform, and under here, we're going to create a policy in here pretty much. And so we are going to select M365 applications for Windows 10 and later. And then pretty much the category is already pre-selected, which is productivity. And then in here, you get the option to select whether you want the users to see a feature application within the company portal. If you want to do that, you can just enable this. If you don't, you can just disable. Same, you get information about the information URL, privacy URL, and then the logo of the application you are deploying. Now here, that's where it gets really granular, right? You get options here to choose the architecture, whether you want to go with 32 or 64-bit, the file format, and then the update channel. I encourage you to learn a little bit more about this. Some of them are pretty self-explanatory, but this really comes down in how often you want those devices or users applications that to get those updates. So let's go with the semi-annual enterprise channel, and then you get that if you want to choose a specific version to deploy, or if you want to go with the latest. And also you have the option to remove older versions or other versions from here. Now, I didn't talk about the settings format here, but this is important. Sometimes you want to have that customized experience, right? And you probably know where to go to create your XML file to have that customized deployment on your environment. So if you already happen to have the XML data or file, you can go with that option. And what it's going to ask you is for the XML format in here. And once you paste that information in here, you just have to validate it, and the system will pick everything up. Now, because we are doing configuration designer, you get to choose, which applications you want to deploy. If for some reason you're restricting access to access, you just need to uncheck the option. And then there are also other applications, Office applications, but just be aware that you require a license to leverage those. And pretty much those are Project Online and Visio Online. Now, once we select these options, we're going to, this because I changed the XML, was unselected. Same approach, you get to target specific groups, users, or devices. And also, if you want to target, to uninstall or have those available for enrolled devices, you can also choose those options. We're gonna pick just all users again. And again, you get the summary of what you're deploying. And all you have to do once you're good to go, you review the information and everything is good to go in here. You just hit create, and this is going to create your policy. Now, really quick, going back to applications, the protection policies, this is what we were discussing as part of the slides. Let's use webinar as well. Now here also we get the option to target the policy, whether you want to target all applications, Microsoft applications, core and Microsoft applications. So let's go with Microsoft applications. If you want to see a view of the applications that will be targeted, you have a clicking link here, and it's going to take you to the applications that you are pretty much targeting as part of this policy. So this is really helpful. It's just information that you are pretty much not able to select anything. It's just for you to know which ones are getting affected. Now, data protection, this is where we're still, diving into the restrictions, limitations, and also, user experience. Like you want to prevent cut and copy, restrict those actions. If you want to block, if you want to have a policy managed for pasting, things like that. And then if you want to send the org data to other applications, you get to choose which ones you want to do that. And then over here, also, if it happens to be an unmanaged browser, which applications you want to restrict, right? If you want to use any applications, Edge or unmanaged browser, you have to select the browser ID, browser name, and so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and click next. Here is where whether or not you want to have a second proof or authentication for those user experiences, right? If you want them to type a PIN, you get to choose like the maximum length of the PIN. And also if you want to use or overwrite biometrics with PIN, you can have this as required, not required. What will be the timeout in minutes of inactivity so that you require them to go again through this process. And then also, if you want to require them to use that work or school account credentials to access, or if you don't want to do that, then you just go there. Let's go ahead with 2 minutes here. 30 seconds is probably a second in seconds. So 30 seconds. And then again, here in the conditional launch, you get to see what actions are going to be taken in place. If you're going to allow that grace period for the PIN attempts, right? If you want to block or if you want to wipe data after several attempts, this might be probably a bit aggressive, right? But if you want to do so, you can do so as well. And if you want to prevent or block access from jailbroker devices, you can do so as well from here, or even wiping the data, you can take that action. Now, same approach, you get the assignments, right? And you get the exclusions here if you want to exclude some users, and then you get to review those policies as well. Now, this piece concludes the application management piece, and really quick, we're going to dive into the updates. So let's go to under devices Windows, and we have the update rings here that someone in the chat was asking. And so we also have the feature updates for Windows 10 and later, and the quality updates. So let's dive into this one really quick. And you probably see these policies because I have Windows Auto Patch enabled, which is not part of today's demonstration, but just know that this is an automated way for our customers to start patching those devices, especially if you don't want to handle those and leave those to Microsoft, you have the option. Some people and customers do that for the IT department, so they get this full auto patch experience and share the feedback and provide it to the rest of the users. So let's go ahead and create a policy here really quick. Webinar. And then, pretty much you get to select if you want to allow this policy to update the drivers, the Microsoft product team features, right, as well. And if you want to allow this to upgrade from Windows 10 to Win 11, you get this pop-up that says that you need to have a license that authorize this use of Windows 11 if you get to choose this. And also you get to control the user experiences, right? What I was telling you, when should my users restart the devices, right? You get all these options. Usually what most of our customers prefer is to do the reset to default, because this is going to figure out the best way for the users when they are not actively working on those devices. They are going to be able to restart those devices. And then you have also, specific times if you want to target those. Then when the active hours start and finish, if you want to do restart checks, and then also if you want to have them for deadlines, right? What type of grace period you're going to allow before rebooting. And then if you are going to have also a deadline for feature and quality updates. So this is going to be the baseline. And then you also can get more granular if you go to the feature updates here. So you can actually control, and this is going to take precedence of whatever you set up on previous policy. And you have the features, pretty much the latest in here. You're even going to have Windows 11 22H2, and you also have the rollout options if you want to have those broken down into groups, if you want to have them available on a specific date, or if you want to deploy them as soon as possible. And then you get the same approach. And this is something you're going to see a lot with Microsoft Intune, right? You are going to have your settings first, then the assignment, and then you get to review the policy towards the end. And so that's pretty much how you go about those. And same thing about the quality updates over here. And that's pretty much it as far as the presentation. I am going to pass it back to my colleague, Lizzie, so she can walk you through the next steps, and perhaps we can have a final Q&A towards the end. Thanks, everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Oscar. That was great. We appreciate you taking the time to step into the actual tenant for us. That being said, feel free to throw questions into the chat at this time, and we will take them. Just covering some main next steps, hopefully this webinar continued to spark your interest in Intune, or maybe taught you some things and capabilities about it that you didn't realize it could do for your organization. So if you want to learn more and you want to have a more granular conversation with your aligned modern work specialist, your modern work specialist like myself would be able to talk about your specific use cases, and alongside our technical specialists be able to troubleshoot maybe worries or concerns or just wanting to know more information. That's going to be your modern work specialist. So reach out to your account executive if you are a managed account for that. And then secondly, please utilize all of the following links below to just keep the momentum going if maybe you're still in a phase of wanting to learn more before you reach out and work with Microsoft or one of our partners directly. We've got the Intune core product page here. We also have the Intune suite down here. That is not what we covered today, but there has been a lot of news about the new Intune suite. It's really an add-on to what we covered today. And so that's that second link to the newer Intune suite if you want to learn more about those new features. We have Microsoft Fast Track, and then if you want to reach out and have somebody contact you, but you're not sure who to reach out to, then go ahead and fill out that contact me request. And then lastly there, you see that for further guidance, visit this Cloud Attach link. So essentially, we've added this link here because there was a Cloud Attach portion of the demo, and that is going to be those specific instructions on what Oscar covered in that portion today. So that's everything for next steps. I don't know if we've had any questions thrown in the chat yet or not, but if so, we will be happy to take those now, and I'll go ahead and give it a look.
We have a few questions, Lizzie, on the chat, but I'm seeing that most of these are getting addressed. So there was a question related to moving the legacy GPOs to Microsoft Intune. So there's a process, and I see that this already was posted down in the chat. So how to migrate? So there's an importing process that has to occur when you are migrating your policies to Intune. So of course you are going to have your GPOs exported, and then that those files that you are going to export, you can import them into Microsoft Intune. If there's any errors or mismatchings or anything, Intune will let you know. But as far as the compatibility and the usability, it's pretty straightforward. Like I've seen customers, migrating those GPOs policies from the on-premises servers to, or the group policy editor to the Microsoft Intune without any issues. Also, if you happen to have or run into any issues, just know that Microsoft 365 support, it's available from the M365 Admin Center, and you can pretty much open a support ticket from there, and they can advise you in how to enable those. Now, there's also a question about upgrading from Windows 10 to Windows 11 when you have a hybrid joint machine. I'm not sure if that one was addressed, but if it wasn't, then you have you need first to have a fully hybrid experience, and probably I'll have to jump into the demo really quick. Here under Windows, oh my bad, one enrollment devices. Here, this is where you have to first, create your connector. I don't have the connector myself. This is a demo tenant, by the way. You probably can tell by the name, right? But you have to create a connector. That connector have to have you the full hybrid experience from, so that way you can have the hybrid experience, or Azure AD, hybrid Azure AD joint devices. And now when you enable co-management, remember the sliders that I was showing you before, you have to select Intune in order to have Intune managing those. Of course, if you have to target those also within the device collection, right? So there's a step-by-step process in order to achieve those, and we can probably look at those and provide the link so for you to go through that process. So once you select Microsoft Intune, you get the option to create the policy for the feature updates, and also you have to enable that option that was sharing you, going from Windows 10 to Windows 11. But of course, again, just reminding you that you have to own a device that allows you to step up from Windows 10 to Windows 11. That's a good question. It's not that one-step process, but instead it's multiple steps. And I can look up for some links while we go through other questions. I'm not sure, Lizzie, if you had the time to review the chat.
Yes, I'm not seeing any other questions at this time. You did a good job of addressing those too. It looks like, Oscar, we have a new one in here. So what if a created user logging in with a personal device that's not Azure AD joined or enrolled into MDM joined, is that device logged into Intune? And it's in the chat there if you need to look at it more specifically.
I can see the question. I guess, Robert, can you expand a little bit? Are you looking more from the protection perspective, like what will be the user experience, what would be the policies you can put in place, or the things you can do. I'm not sure I'm following the question. If you can just provide us a little bit more context there so we can accurately answer.
Yep. And as he provides that additional context, we have another question. Are the features that you talked about today part of the new Intune suite? So no, that was on the next steps page essentially. And today we did not. We covered features that align specifically to Intune Plan 1, which is bundled into what you all might know as Microsoft 365 E3 or our Enterprise and Mobility E3 licenses. If you want to talk about the new Intune suite, go ahead and follow that link or reach out to your account executive and we can set up time with the Modern Work Specialist to cover more of the new Intune suite features like mobile application management, tunnel management, things like that. So that is kind of a separate discussion from what we covered today, which is the baselines of Intune.
Okay, I see what you mean. We have enough information to answer Robert, and I can see also a question from Jonathan. So let me address really quick, Robert. So that device, if that user, it really depends how you set up your policies first, right, Robert? But I can tell you that the device, it's going to show up in Azure AD. And because the user is using a personal device, right? Bring in their own device and trying to log into your environment. Different approaches and layers have to occur in order to see the full experience, right? But if today you have open enrollment in Intune, right? No, step number one, you have open enrollment in Intune. And a user is using their personal device to connect to your services. If there's no restriction, they should be able to connect, right? Again, no restrictions. But the device is going to show up in Azure AD as a registered device. And there's also documentation that explains the differences between Azure AD register, Azure AD enrolled, and join, and so on and so forth. But I will encourage you to have some sort of conditional policies in place, application protection policies as well, to prevent that from happening. Or even if you require, if you want them to have access, right? That's another thing. If you want them to have access, maybe ask them for a second factor before you provide or provision the access. That's Microsoft best practices. And we are going to quickly address Jonathan's question before we wrap up. I know we are coming on time. So Jonathan, for the issue that you are mentioning related to the out-of-the-box experience for Windows 11, I'm not sure which one is the step or phase 3 on that process. I know you said that it's account setup. I'm not aware of any issues, but I will ask you back if you have opened up a support ticket with Microsoft 365 Admin Center. So it's pretty easy, and I can show you really quick from here. You click in Help and Support, you type your issue, and it's going to give you some information, and then you get this headset icon where you can contact support, provide context, your name, your admin, and everything else. So that's pretty much it related to support. Now for Robert, just expanding on that question. So it really depends again, right? If you have conditional access policies to prevent resources accessing from the browser, you have a way to prevent those, right? You can create a conditional access policy that will be more on the Azure side. However, you can select Office applications, target Office applications as the cloud applications being affected. And the condition is to come from a browser. So you can actually target the browser specifically and ask them for a second factor or even restrict them, right? You might be only looking to have or give them access as a read-only. So again, I will encourage you to look at conditional access for that, and it can achieve your goal for sure. And I think that's it for today. I see more questions coming in, but we are short on time, unfortunately. Again, if Lizzie's screen really quick, I'm going back to this. So feel free to reach out to us as the next steps. And also, we have more oncoming sessions. So Lizzie, I'll take you. I'll have you, take the.
Of course, yeah, certainly. So as you can see, there's a plethora of sessions to come over the next coming of weeks. Feel free to tune in to the ones that specifically may be aligned to your organization and things you're looking to learn more about. I believe Shay sent the list of webinars at the top of the chat, but maybe we'll have her send it again one more time to make sure that everybody can register for any upcoming sessions. And then lastly, check out the Microsoft Modern Work webinars YouTube channel. We have lots of previous webinars on that channel, and then all of these ones to come will be loaded on there as well. We appreciate everyone's time today, and reach out to your account executives or your Modern Work specialists to schedule follow-up meetings. And we will also, I believe, be sending out a feedback form at the close of this meeting. So if you have a second to fill that out for us, that's super helpful in our production of future meetings and webinars as well. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.